Hello and welcome back to another episode of We Burn Blue. With the transfer window finally slamming shut, slightly underwhelming from a Chelsea perspective, and the UCL fixtures, your boys had to be back to record another pod. How's it going, Sharon?
I mean, I like to call you out on the words you use because I'm quite pedantic that way, but you say it was underwhelming. We still got a shit ton of business, excuse my French. We got a shit ton of business done this summer, and somehow still managed to get a positive net spend. I don't know how we're managing all of this, but I mean, maybe underwhelming isn't the word I would use.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's underwhelming for me just because of the way it ended. I think the whole Simons and Fermin Lopez back and forth, and then Jackson's dilemma and all that drama was just like you always do call me out and make me sort of backtrack, but I'm gonna stick with it. I felt underwhelmed at the end, to be honest, because of the promise of what was there to be had. Um, but I
Yeah,
mean,
true. I mean, for weeks and weeks that Simon's deal was being touted, and I think when you look at the fan perspective, right, that was a deal everybody really wanted. But we'll come on to that later on. I think what was not underwhelming was my predictions, right, for the first three games of the season.
yeah, we're on 7 points in three. You had predicted seven after five. So we're looking all right so far. I think I had predicted 13, which is assuming we beat Brentford and United in our next two, we're looking good for that. So that's we have to see how it goes.
That is true. Where right now we're both on track for our predictions. So yeah, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, initial thoughts of the form the season so far.
I mean, I think a lot of the stuff we had discussed, particularly when we talked about, would we have any consequences of the deep Club World Cup run, in terms of injuries? I think we're seeing that happen. The likes of Colwill, Delap, and Palmer all getting injured in the span of like, the first 3 weeks. You could say are a consequence of this, and I think we're gonna need to rely on our depth even more now.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It's always hard to draw like kind of straight lines between an injury and like maybe a player being overworked, but I mean, we did kind of think this might happen, so for now we can just kind of put the injuries on having played, but at least we won the Club World Cup, right? As far as Delap goes, I'm a bit concerned because I do remember him being a bit injury prone last season, and I don't think he had the same game load as we did last season, right? If I'm not mistaken, at the end of the season, he had a bit of a break before joining us as well. So that is one to keep an eye on. I think he's a bit more injury prone, whereas yeah, Cole will we'll just see him hopefully towards the end of the season, if not next season. It always seems like we're without one key defender right at the start of every season for a whole year.
Yeah, that seems to be a pattern. You're right. And I mean, yeah, we had Fofana out for most of last season. This season, Cole was missing out. Fofana's making his way back. And I mean, how do you feel the defense has been looking in the last three games? Small sample size, of course, but in my opinion, it's a little shaky at times with Tosin and Charova playing as the starting two. I think Fofana is still working his way back. Josh doesn't have the manager's confidence to play week in, week out. What do you think about that?
I agree with most of what you said. It's definitely looking shaky. I remember watching the only two preseason games that we had, and pointing out to you that this new system we're playing of a 3-1-6, I say new because most of last season we started with the 3-2-5 in most games. This season he seems to have found a 3-1-6 that he's trying to find a balance within. Right now he's not finding the balance, especially in defensive transitions. So I agree with you that we're looking extremely shaky at the back. I think when we are finally in our mid or low block, we look a bit more solid, right? It's mostly on defensive transitions. Um, but where I disagree is I actually do think Tosin and Chalobah hold their own. They're very good defenders. And of course, they're very good on the ball as well. So I do want to give them some credit. Um, but yeah, I think this is a case of Maresca's system letting them down rather than them having, shockers or making mistakes, in front of goal.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're having shockers at all. I think it's just, like you said, in transitional play. What I've noticed, and I think I pointed this out to you in one of our voice notes after one of the games, is that they're solid, yeah, when it's a mid or low block. But if they've pushed up and then it's a counter attack and they have to, the ball is basically behind them or at the same level with them and they're having to track back and defend, I feel that's when we look really shaky because they look like they lose their men and they're not aware of what's happening about them around them because they're very focused on the ball. But when the ball is in front of them and they have the full pitch to look at, and I mean when we have the ball, of course they can ping their passes, but when other teams are playing in front of them and they can see it all, they look really assured. And that is, I think, a concern for me because, like you said, in the system, right, we do leave ourselves exposed to quick counters, and we're going to need defenders who can be aware in that transition. And that's why I feel, and it's no knock on what they've been doing. It's more about, the possibility where we're going to see teams set up to counter the system that we have. We know the Premier League adapts very quickly, right?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. My main thing is, when people are critical of players, we need to be very careful and make sure that it's justified, right? So I'm saying I see it more as a systemic issue, right? Because if your rest defense is a three and a one, but sometimes also Chaloba is able to push up or Cucurella is able to push up from the left side, it's actually more of a two and one. You're exposed down the middle and in the flanks, right? Depending on where Caicedo ends up and who he ends up tracking, right, on the counter. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, we acknowledge that Chalobah and Tosin have actually had decent games. Like you say, small sample size. I also think we need to acknowledge that Colwill and Chalobah were the starting two, right? Tosin coming in probably needs some game time with Chalobah by his side to develop that bit of chemistry. I think if we're being a little bit hypercritical, but still fair enough to point it out, uh, they do lack a bit of chemistry. I understand what you're saying. There's maybe a lack of coordination in that defensive transition, but again, like they can also only do so much, right?
Yeah, fair. That's true. But moving on to the rest of the rest of the team and how it's been looking, what are your thoughts on the attack and the midfield before we, move further on?
I mean, I remember basically again, I felt maybe I was being a bit harsh, but these were just again, small sample size, but very quick observations I had made from even preseason. These were things that I had noted, like Estevao being a bit wasteful in front of goal. I think he needs to be more ruthless. He needs to understand that, yeah, he's going to have less time and fewer touches available to him in front of goal, and he needs to make his mind up quicker. But of course, look, like he's a young guy, and he will have time to improve. He will get the game time and the experience playing different teams in the Premier League. So for me, that's more of just pointing out something that he's not good at, more for the expectation that he will improve. Somebody who is kind of underwhelmed, to use your favorite word of the day. For me, Jamie Gittins is a bit undercooked. Again, can't blame him too much because there wasn't much of a preseason and he's trying to learn, I guess, a new system and be in a new team. But he was somebody I was expecting to click a bit more because of he's played with Tosin, Palmer, Lavia, and other ex-City players, like academy players, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, you're right. I think Gittins is definitely still finding his feet. And we had talked about this. It's if you compare him to where Madueke was, we said it's a bit of a regression. So I think we're seeing that. I assume he's gonna grow into it. Estival, his the sample size in a blue shirt is quite small, but I do see how he has been a bit wasteful in also in the sense where he's had a couple of block shots. But I mean, if you look at his highlight reels and his the goals he scored at Palmeiras, I think it's just about him finding his way. Otherwise, I mean, Enzo has looked like he's been building his way up to full fitness. Like in the last two games, you could see his energy levels looked a little low, but I think versus Fulham, he looked sharper than he did previously versus West Ham. There was a little bit of that. I don't know whatever happened at halftime with the fitness coach, but I think nothing to worry about there.
I mean, sorry to jump in, but on Enzo, right? I remember this sort of form. Like the difference was last season when he was off form. Uh, Not only did he look slow and tired, but his passing was way off as well, right? Simple passes on the counter attack. Against Fulham, it seems like he's got his legs and engine back. It's just about the radar. Because we did pass up a good few opportunities on counterattacks, which he actually had the pivotal pass to play, and he cocked up a few times there.
That is true. He has missed that, and I think match sharpness will come as he sort of regains match fitness, and we'll be seeing less of those things happen because he's still been in the goals, right? I mean, his that goal where he arrived late to the box, very very Lampard-esque in that sense. So it's good to see that. Otherwise, the Delap injury, a bit of a worry, yes. Colwell out long term. Palmer, hopefully he's back after the international break and, we can look at all settled. And I mean, Caicedo and the rest, Cucurella, some of these guys just look like they have mad engines on them and they're going tirelessly. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably a good enough recap considering we've only actually played three competitive games this season. But something you definitely wanted to go deeper into was the sort of transfers, and you were saying it's been a bit of an underwhelming end. But overall, right? Overall, you would say we had a pretty strong window, right?
Yeah, I think we've had a strong window in that two key areas that were, obvious gaps, one on the left wing and one at left back. We have, plugged those gaps. Remains to be seen how Gittins and Garnacho, I can't believe I'm saying Garnacho is a Chelsea player, but remains to be seen how both of these guys, how they actually turn out. But I mean, overall, like you said, net spend in the green, we managed to have a net spend of plus 4 million. So that's like over 300 million, 328.1 million in transfers in and 332.2 million in transfers out, which is an insane amount of business. And you have to question, as you always do, right? How is the club going to be able to keep this up every window? I don't know because there was a lot of players to be offloaded this time, but they still managed to pull off some really, really good deals, I think. The likes of Madueke going to Arsenal, huge fee there, right? And even with Jackson, I think the whole back and forth that happened, they managed to negotiate it in a bet and get a better amount up front. I think we got a 14 million loan fee, and it goes up to like another 56 or so million with an obligation to buy. Of course, it's conditional, right? So whether that happens or not, we'll have to see. But either way, like it's good business. Where I was disappointed is, I mean, I still can't get over the Garnacho transfer. Simon's very, very long saga. I mean, I was pretty confident we were going to get that done. Then this Fermin Lopez character from Barcelona pops up, but didn't seem like there was anything concrete behind it. And then Buonanotte signing on loan from Brighton, being called a replacement for Simons. I think we discussed this. He's not really a replacement, is he?
No, he's not. And frankly speaking, like Simons is he's clear, man. He's on a different level. Having seen him play, both for, I think it's for Leipzig. I always mix up Leipzig and Salzburg, but I think it's Leipzig and also for, the Dutch at major tournaments, right? The guy has like the same. I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, but he has the same level as Palmer. Like he can carry that sort of creative threat that we need. He's supremely intelligent, like Palmer as well. And I really thought we missed a trick by prioritizing Garnacho over Simons. It did look like that's how it worked out, because all the talk was, okay, you sell in Kunku and you bring in Simons because it's more of a direct replacement, right? In that left half space, drifting inside and stuff. But it looks like we've prioritized Garnacho. Again, look, you can't knock these guys on their approach because um, they are running the club how they see fit. They are not going to bow to any sort of fan pressure when it came to the Garnacho transfer, and neither should they. I mean, so far overall, you would say, okay, things are going in a good direction. Again, I'm trying to be very careful. I don't want to jinx anything. But yeah, there's only so much you can question their approach, right? So we just have to hope that Garnacho comes good.
Yeah, we do. I think that that point you mentioned there, like it was kind of brief that Nkunku goes, Simons is in, was like so it was so out there. And then what stings a little bit more is the fact that then he went to Spurs, right? So that was just like, you've passed on him and he's gone to a rival, a direct rival, right? Derby rival. But moving on, I mean, there was some other questionable business. Ishe Samuel Smith, loan to Strasbourg, loan cancelled. No, sorry, scratch that. He was sold to Strasbourg and then bought back. And then now he's been loaned out again. Chilwell moved on to Strasbourg. We finally got Ben Chilwell off the books. Mark Guehi recalled because of the Delap injury. David Washington also recalled. It feels like we replaced, one injured striker with two, maybe three if Dacho Fofana doesn't get a loan going out. We have like three strikers in place of the one. Tariq George, your boy, was looked like he was on his way out. That deal fell through as well, both Roma and Fulham. So he might feel hard done by. Um, and then of course some big names who we were expecting to move on didn't move on. Disasi and Sterling are still on our books. Disasi apparently wasn't willing to agree a deal with any of the Premier League clubs that showed interest, and now Sterling likewise, nobody came for him. He doesn't want to go to Saudi or Turkey. So, I mean, what do you make of that? Just to recap the transfer business.
I mean, like, it's to be expected, right? At the start of the transfer window, none of us were expecting them to get rid of every single player that needed to go. Um, what maybe could have been handled better is the whole Jackson situation. And again, you could argue that it worked in our favor because not only have we got a bigger fee on the loan fee, we've got now the obligation to buy from Bayern Munich side. So again, like in terms of my viewpoint, I don't think these guys have actually had such a bad window because of the amount of players they had to move on. And you know what? You just got to look at it like, okay, Disasi and Sterling are not going to be integrated back into the squad. So you basically now have time till the next window to find moves for them and have them all tied up and ready to go by January 1st. Datro Fofana, I'm sure somebody will come in for a loan for this guy because I still think he has some potential. So again, like overall, I can't be too harsh on these guys because they also brought in two key strikers, and Delap getting injured, right? Even if he's injured for like let's say 12 weeks, they're reporting 6 to 8, but it could be longer. If it's 12 weeks, it's 12 weeks, right? You manage without him, but then he'll come back in, and that's why I think recalling Gu and Washington is justified. Washington has been on poor form. Apparently, he's only scored one goal in 19 appearances on his loan, so there's full justification to bring him back. I don't think he'll play ahead of Guiu. Okay, so you're looking at playing Guiu, maybe coming in at 60 minutes if you're winning and you need to rest Pedro, or coming on as like a last minute like legs to help press, if in case you're chasing a deficit. I like Guiu, like he actually can handle the pressure, and you know what? He's a pressing forward. He's all action. Chelsea fans like to see that from their strikers.
Yeah, that's true. And I think he was pretty confident in himself as well to take on, Sunderland as a basically one of the lone forwards there. And obviously Sunderland signed a replacement for him and we recalled him after the lapse. So I mean I'm happy with how things turned out in the end, I guess. We have a pretty settled squad. I'm now just looking forward at how the season's gonna go.
One other thing that really kind of twists the knife when you think about that Simon's transfer not happening. I do wonder how much value we've lost out on not having a front of shirt sponsor, and I feel like that has definitely cost us the Simon signing in some way, right? Because I think we liquidated enough to be able to get him, right? We've had a positive net spend, right? If you add another like 40, 50 million, which is not unreasonable for Chelsea for a front of shirt sponsor, I feel like we could have made that move work earlier in the window.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We don't have that guaranteed source of funds for now at least, and it might have helped for sure. I also wonder if it had to do with even the UCL squad balancing, which is what they were also concerned about. But yeah, the lack of a front of shirt sponsor is I mean, it's the third season in a row we've gone into September without one. And I'm really hoping that they tie it up soon. Last I read, there was some conversations with Riyadh there in Saudi, or in Qatar Airways, sorry. But I mean, the sooner this happens, the better because it's precious money that we could have used, like you said, with someone like Simons, and going forward, we need that revenue because there's no more hotels to sell.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't know it's already been almost two full seasons without it. I just remember last season going without it until the Damac sponsorship, right? But if you think about it, even 30 million per year for two seasons, that's the Simons transfer right there. And you don't have to worry about the UEFA restrictions.
Yeah. No, even the season when we had Infinite Athlete, they came on late into the season, if you remember. They were not there from the start.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So, look, I mean, these guys they have their own approach, and they clearly are holding out for some serious valuation. But maybe this is one thing I would probably fault them on because going into a season where you're actually in the Champions League, so you're getting, let's say, you should be getting the highest form of sponsorship, right? Because you're going to be exposed to the top level of football, European football. Not to mention your reputation has burgeoned because your young team has won the Club World Cup, and everybody's talking about us at least qualifying for Champions League again, if not becoming semi-serious title contenders. To pass up on that sort of image gain, right? Um, I think that's a slip up from the board.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Let's just see. I think I read on Reddit that somebody commented saying if they don't wrap it up in the next 2 weeks, then it's really poor business on their part because of the international break. But let's see how it goes. Moving on from the business side of things, let's look at the UCL then, right? So the draw's out, some pretty big, some we've met multiple times, some new opposition, but some pretty big names in there. Just to recap, we were drawn to Bayern, Benfica, Ajax, Karabakh, Barcelona, Atalanta, Pafos, and Napoli. So now that the draw's out, what do you think? How do you think we're gonna do?
Well, you know me, and my undying optimism for the club. I'm predicting that we only win two games.
2 games. Which two?
I don't think you'll have to think too hard on that one, man. I mean, like if we don't win against Karabag and Paphos, I think Maresca's head should be on the chopping block. Yeah. I cannot actually believe we've got such a difficult draw because I remember thinking to myself last season that even though it was a new format, like it still seemed to be a good balance of okay, each big team has two big games, but then the other six games are a little bit more manageable, and you expect them to go through. Of course, PSG made it look difficult before winning the tournament, but yeah, this is quite unbelievably hard.
Yeah, man, it is quite a tough draw. I mean, I think like you said, the given fixtures, if you had to look at it, the really given fixtures are, I guess, Karabag and Paphos. But the rest of them, man, there are some like certified tough opposition we've had trouble against before. You're looking at Barcelona, you're looking at Bayern. You have some of those hipster favorites in like Ajax and Benfica, and Atlanta and Napoli with some Italian spice in there. It's not going to be easy, man. But I think I stand by my prediction to say we get through to the quarterfinals. And or okay, let's look at the group stages. I think we should be able to make it out of the group stages in the first half. I'm a little I mean, I wouldn't say worried, but of course Bayern is the first fixture right after Brentford, which is after the international break, before United, and then we have Benfica before Liverpool at home, Barcelona before Arsenal at home. I mean, if there's any consolation, it's that we don't have to travel for these for these fixtures. They're home fixtures, so that should be good for us, I guess. But that's like the only consolation I have. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see how the squad steps up. It's a very young squad, and they're coming up against world-class opposition. But we showed we can do it, especially in these one-off games. When we beat PSG. So I think it's going to be fun to watch, like I said.
Yeah, I mean the word on the street is that we look like a great cup team. So make of that what you will. It's still a league format in this phase of the Champions League. Um, and honestly, man, I don't. I'm not obviously never as optimistic as you. I don't see September being a very good month for us. I can see us. I've already predicted that we lose to Brentford and United, but I'm going to add that we also lose to Bayern Munich. I don't know if Jackson is available to play against us. If he is, we're about to get absolutely destroyed.
He is UEFA doesn't have the same rule with regards to loanees, so he can play versus his parent club.
Well, that's just fantastic. That is also a very Chelsea thing to do, isn't it? Because we just love strengthening everybody around us. And then I said September is not going to be a very good month. Maybe for those first three games, I think we're going to lose. The games against Lincoln City and Brighton, I'm going to put us down for back-to-back wins before wrapping up September with a draw against Benfica. And I believe the next international break is after the Liverpool game. And I don't look defensively, both teams look shaky at best, but I feel like Liverpool's firepower by then is going to be insane. I mean, they've just secured Isak. He'll probably have a lot of time to bed in over September, and by the time they face us, I'm expecting a very well-oiled attack. Man, that their front four is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, dude, my optimism is still is still going strong. I think so. Like I said, I had predicted win versus Brentford, draw versus United. Um, I still think we could those results hold. Win versus Brentford, draw versus United, Bayern in the middle. I think we're gonna start with the our UCL with a draw. I don't think we lose that. I don't think they're also looking. I mean, they do have Musiala out, but then they also did just thrash Leipzig. So yeah, I still think that we can get a draw there. Lincoln should be a win. Brighton as well a win. Benfica, I'm confident we win. And Liverpool, man, that's going to be tough. You're right. Their front four is lethal. I think adding Isak is just next level. And by that time, he would have. It's a good what 4 weeks away now. So he will have had time to settle and find his way about the squad. And Ekitike is also looking pretty sharp. I mean, he's got a couple of goals in the Premier League already. So that's also a glimpse of something we could have had, we were linked with, right? So, but I think if we're able to, if assuming that, Fofana is able to stay fit and, he gets into the side, we could rock up there looking pretty strong. And we've shown that we can go toe to toe with Liverpool. So we could get a draw there, rounding off that, the set of fixtures before the international break. Of course, like we know, my optimism is really high. So let's see how it
I
goes.
mean, dude, you basically predicted that we don't lose a game for, for the whole of September and that Liverpool game. So, hey man, look, if you're right, I will also be happy. So, may it be so. But yeah, man, just remember that, when we are like, what is it, 3-4 down against Liverpool, I'll just be like, I told you so.
Watch with my luck, we'll go and get a big fat L up at Lincoln City.
I mean, if we lose that game, Maresca should probably be gone, right? I don't know. There should be no excuses, man. Our second team, it should still be blowing some Premier League teams out of the water, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just messing around. Let's see. I mean, I get it. It's a very, very optimistic take. I think if I had to call one match or two matches being definite losses, not definite. If I had to say, okay, these are two games we could lose. Our chances of losing are higher than most. It's definitely Bayern and Liverpool. The rest, I think, we can stay unbeaten and push for wins for sure.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. And I think now, kind of just to wrap up the pod, we wanted to do some quick fire questions because at the end of the day, there isn't actually that much to cover in terms of on the pitch, right? Because, like you said, small sample size, very short preseason. So yeah, man, why don't you take it away with your questions first?
All right, let's go then. So my first question, are you convinced by Maresca?
No, not yet, but I'm getting there. I am quite impressed. Um, with sort of how he's turned things around this year. And you look at the Fulham game as like, okay, set pieces are clearly part of the plan, and he's also making changes a lot sooner than he would have last season.
Okay, fair. Next one. Do you think Sanchez gets the Golden Glove this season?
Are you joking?
Fair, had to ask it. Do you think we will beat Arsenal this season? I think it's been the last 3 years or so we haven't beaten them. Do you think we beat them this season?
No chance, man. Though they have strengthened in the same way we have strengthened, and I arguably they've got bought better pedigree up top, man.
Okay. Looking at this window alone, because that'll get too wide otherwise, what was in your mind the best transfer rumor that, the best transfer we were linked with and the worst?
I mean, like we touched on this a lot, but best was Simon's, man. I was really excited to see him kind of play in that kind of channel area or as a number 10, and letting, some of the pressure get off of Palmer's shoulders. So, I mean, I know we've signed João Pedro technically in this transfer, right? Transfer window. But as far as rumors go, when I saw the Simons one being serious, I was like, wow, if we get this, this is really raising the floor and the ceiling of our team, man. Like we can reach new heights. In terms of worst, Garnacho, enough said.
Got it. Okay, so that's your worst piece of business, Garnacho. Got it. I think
It's
Mudryk
it's
rivals
got to
that.
be short of basically not offloading Sterling. Yes, I think yeah, we needed Sterling's wages off the books because he's outside of the wage structure apparently. But yeah, Garnacho is definitely the worst.
Okay, fair enough. And one more just from a UCL perspective. Other than the finals, your best ever UCL memory.
Oh, you can't take away the finals. Okay, you know what? Then I'll just go semifinals, right? The Ramirez chip over Victor Valdez at the new camp. I don't actually think there are not that many goals better than that. We were down to 10 men. It came out of bloody nowhere. They were all over us. And this guy just coolly loves Victor Valdez, who's not he's a pretty damn good goalkeeper. So yeah, that's it for me, man.
I was hoping you would go back to that semifinal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna say the Gary Neville orgasm that he had while Torres scored. I think that he kind of ruined that moment for a lot of Chelsea fans. But I think now it's over to me. It's my turn, yeah, to get some quick fires. So, how many points do you think we'll take against the Big Six this season? Big Six, I guess, doesn't include us, obviously, but it includes Newcastle. I'm excluding Villa, just considering the way they've started the season.
So we're looking at United, City, Arsenal, Spurs, Newcastle, Liverpool. Out of a potential um 36 points, how many I think we're gonna get? It's tricky. I wanna go with
It's supposed to be quick fire, mate.
yeah, okay. Let's just say we get 20 to 24 points.
You got to give me an exact number. And also, that's very like middle of the road for you, man. You're normally more optimistic.
You're making me rethink my you know. But okay, if I had to say, let's say we lose on the road, we lose four of those on the road. So that's 12. So yeah, 24 points.
Okay, fair enough, man. What do you think is the biggest weakness or gap in the squad that needs to be addressed in January?
Striker. Assuming Sanchez can really grow, otherwise it's an easy goalkeeper, but striker right now.
Okay. And that actually no follow-ups allowed. So I'll just take your answer there. Thoughts on Gusto versus James, considering Gusto has actually started two out of the three Prem games?
I think I like the balance with Gusto on the pitch right now. The way Cucurella is playing, so I'm gonna go Gusto right now. But I mean, James is a beast, and every time he comes on, he lifts the team instantly. So yeah. I also, sorry, caveat. I think what's gonna happen if I really had to call it, I think James is gonna play big games. Gusto is gonna play the versus the lower opposition.
Okay, we'll just ignore that caveat because it's quick fire. Is the club's approach to Deadwood justified? Do you know what I mean by that?
Define the approach.
So, for instance, Chilwell has literally just they've decided that he's just not going to fit the system, and we loaned him out last season, and this season we've just shipped him off to our feeder club or sister club, whatever you want to call them. So literally, they just deem somebody unworthy of the first team, and that's it. They don't grace the pitch ever again.
I mean, do I think it's justified? It's justified if the manager isn't going to use him, right? And if they're not seeing that from a player perspective, I don't think it's right to do it to a player like Chilwell, but is it justified when he's not going to get a chance to play at all? And I mean, Maresca is saying I can't use him, then yeah, I mean you got to move them on for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Best right wing at the club.
Hmm. Pedro Neto,
Thank you for saying that. Okay, and then signing who will be signing of the season for us come the end of the season.
now that everyone's done. Uh, Ja Pedro.
Okay, so I've got a list of quick picks here. In your ideal starting 11. Okay, forget about Maresca and how he's going to set up. In your ideal starting 11, four quick picks here. You got to choose between two players. Okay, Sanchez or Jorgensen,
Sanchez,
Fofana and Chalobah,
Fofana,
Lavia or Santos.
Santos,
Garnacho Gittins.
Garnacho.
Wow. You know, I'm a bit surprised with the Garnacho one, but I guess it's like the lesser of two evils. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think Garnacho just because I've seen more of him and I think he has a lot more to prove. I think Gittins, what I've seen, I'm not again, it's early days, but he Garnacho has the Premier League experience, so I think just because of that. What are your picks? Sanchez versus Jorgensen.
Oh, it's Jorgensen for me, easy.
Fofana versus Chalobah.
Chalobah,
Lavia versus Santos.
Lavia.
Garnacho versus Gittins.
Oh man, I hate myself so much if I said Garnacho. So I'm gonna go. I would put Gittins because I can't stand Garnacho, man. I don't understand why we've brought his profile and attitude to our club, but I actually agree with like the logical way is to just put all of that aside and play Garnacho because he has experience, but I can't do that. I'm too egotistical as a manager, you know.
Yeah, no, I just a reminder, my wildcard prediction for the season, Garnacho wins us all over. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah. I think next pod you're gonna have to go into a bit more detail as to winning us all over. Like, what are we talking? Like 20 goal and assist contributions. Like, you'll have to set a threshold for that, but I think we can leave that for next time.
Okay, fair enough. I'll think about it. Well, give me some time to also see how he actually performs. Um, but yeah, I think that brings an end to one of our fastest ever or our shortest ever podcasts. Well done.
Yeah, actually didn't think we had it in us because you know how much I like to talk.
Yeah, I do. I do. So we want to know who you'd pick in your starting 11. So head over to X, give us a follow, and vote in our polls there. And if you like what you've heard, leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and definitely subscribe and share this podcast with other Chelsea fans out there. All right, till the next one, up the Chelsea.